it started years ago when we had a group that got together and they put together picnics in the park for homeless people. And so you had volunteers who would bring food to various parks throughout Tempe. Moore Park is the one that gets all the attention. And then they would feed homeless.
Hand out food.
In fact,
awful.
At one point, the city of Tempe gave a commendation to Austin Davis, who was one of these guys that was leading these groups. Fast forward to last year? They arrest Austin Davis for feeding the groups. New leadership came into Tempe, and they decided, no, you can't be helping homeless people. How dare you do such a thing? How are we possibly going to chase them off to other cities if you're helping them here in our own city?
And they're trying to crack down on all these groups now, and it seems like trying to just get them to go away or do things their way.
So the groups have decided, not only are we kind to our fellow man, we're going to fight those who are not. Mm-hmm. So a number of groups, many of them faith-based, put together additional feedings. Even though Austin Davis, the gentleman we just mentioned, he has been banned from going into any Tempe parks. He's been banned because he was feeding homeless people. And how dare you do such a thing? By the way, we reached out to Tempe yet again on this story and received no response. So we talked with Dave Wells. Dave Wells is the New Deal Meal founder. This is another group that gets together, faith-based, and they say, let's try to help the homeless. Now, Dave took a look at what was going on, and Tempe, all of a sudden, with this other story with Austin Davis in the past, Tempe said, you know what we're going to do is we are going to mandate that there are permits if you want to come to the park and hold an event. And then we're going to charge you $500 to apply for the permit. It has to be 6 months ahead of time that you apply for it.
You got to reapply often.
No, you had to reapply for each one.
Every event.
Every one. So let's say you're going out Sunday after church and you're gonna give lunch to homeless people. You have to file a $500 permit for every Sunday, 6 months in the future, every single.
Gets pretty pricey when you're just
my gosh.
on top of
an extra $2,000 a month just for permits
with the food.
Yes.
To feed the homeless.
All right. So Dave Wells says, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to make these private events. Because their whole deal is, well, we still want people to be able to have birthday parties. We still want people to be able to gather in the parks. The parks are still there for the people, just not homeless people. Remember what we've talked about in the past about how you take things you don't like and you dehumanize them, and that makes it easier to eradicate the issue, right? Dehumanize, and then you can dismiss. If you remove someone's humanity, you can dismiss them without conscience. That's how it works. So Dave Wells, smart guy, says, you know what? Let's start handing out membership cards. Now, all of a sudden, it becomes a private event. Well, City of Tempe has decided, they outsmarted us. How do we fix this? So now Tempe is going to change their own ordinance, or at least they're talking about changing their own ordinance that's been in place since 1967. Dave Wells joins us now. He is one of the founders of the New Deal Meal. Dave, this has got to be frustrating for you.
Yeah, but unfortunately not too surprising. We figured, when they stopped trying to cite us, that they hadn't stopped their intensity to do something about us. And unfortunately, we found out last week what their plan was. Yeah,
we knew that they were going to be up to something. So I'm wondering, is this a game of chess? Are you thinking a move or two ahead as well?
Well, we're definitely. I can't tell you our move or two ahead, but. That's okay. We definitely have a move ahead that, and we wouldn't take place right away, but it's something we have confidence that if we don't prevail in the courts, because there was a court hearing related to the federal lawsuit that was filed against Tempe in April today, asking for an injunction about enforcing their special event ordinance. But we're looking at other kinds of opportunities and ways in which we can navigate this space, because people need to be fed. I mean, I did find evidence that in fact homeless people apparently are aliens, because I ran into a guy named Jason, and Jason has a sign. You know how folks have signs, and it said spaceship crashed. Parts need parts, too expensive. So now I have, definable proofs that, homeless people actually are aliens. So, but don't let that out, because, if you let that out, then that will just further the dehumanization process.
I love creative signs by the unhoused. That's my favorite. I mean, if you are asking for help, you're more likely to get it from me if I see a nice creative sign.
We're joined right now by Dave Wells. He's the New Deal Meal founder. Dave, let's talk about some of these ordinance changes and permit changes that Tempe's put in place. How are they coming at you now? What have they decided? Well, you're doing this, and that violates some of our proposed permit changes.
Yeah, so we've had a number of meetings with the city. It's been extremely frustrating. It's sort of like, taking your head and banging it against the wall a few times and a few more times. But one time I had a deputy city manager, say, "Oh, don't you have like over 100 people show up at your gatherings?" And I say, "No, we don't have that. That's too high." And he says, "But it is at least 30." And now I find out why he was so fixated on 30, because the special events ordinance applies, as the proposed one would apply if your event has 30 or more people, including volunteers. So it doesn't just include the folks who show up, include everybody there. So it's like you got a number, and once we get to 29, it said, "Oh, sorry, we got to stop." Yeah, so that's the main one. And they've also redefined public event. So you have to have like a pre-registration thing or a closed membership list. And we have people sign in, and we have membership cards. But like the guy I met today from the Alien, his actual name's Jason.
Right. Yeah.
Jason the Alien, and I gave him a membership card, because we try to be inclusive and so forth in that way.
You like the aliens, sure.
Yeah. And so, I mean, those are the primary things. But the other things it does is it makes it really clear that you need to have a special event permit for each and every event. Because there have been occasions like the Aris Foundation was able to get a permit for like 6 months when they were doing feedings at the Mountain Park Health Center on Tuesday nights in Tempe. Now it has to be every time. And the city manager, who incidentally, Rosa Anchusti, the city manager, they're going to potentially renew her contract at $370,000 a year at the city council meeting tonight as well.
She could feed a lot of homeless with that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Dave, have you done the breakdown to figure out how many meals you could provide for $370,000?
That's a lot. We could do a lot of stuff with $370,000.
I bet you could.
And they would give her the ability to limit it. So they say like maybe you can do it like 4 times a year instead of every Sunday, as we've been working on it. So it's a real crackdown is what they're attempting to do here. And again, there'll be a public hearing tonight at 6:00 at the Tempe City Council, and they'll have the second one along with a vote if they don't table it. We're asking for them to table it and bring stakeholders back to get together and come up with a mutually agreeable solution as opposed to working behind our back.
Dave Wells is the New Deal Meal founder joining us right now as Tempe is trying to change their ordinance to stop Dave and other groups from helping the homeless. Dave, one of the things that I find interesting is that so many of these different organizations are faith-based in some way, shape, or form. Do we have any inclination as to why the city is working so hard not to have what normally politicians tout as a public-private partnership, especially a faith-based public-private partnership, in order to help out the community? This strikes me as counter to what we normally see from politicians.
Yeah, it's been perplexing on many levels because the Arizona Faith Network, which is a consortium of faith groups, has run a number of the cooling centers in the East Valley and Phoenix and Glendale. And last year they ran them out of 3 churches. This year, the city of Tempe ran them out of only 1 church. And as a consequence, we've had a whole bunch of heat deaths, over 600 heat deaths over last year. It's grown tremendously. Half the people who die out from heat are homeless, and these are really critical things that could really save people's lives. And the city of Tempe didn't work with the faith community at all. They in fact they selected one church. The church they picked, Church of the Epiphany, is the least centrally located, the least accessible one of the 3 that they used last year. It's been really challenging and disconcerting to think about why the city wouldn't work more constructively with the faith community. The faith community is trying to scramble and come up with a way to still open up some centers, but they don't have any funding. And it's really challenging to do that when you're doing that at the last minute.
It blows my mind. Dave Wells, the New Deal Meal founder. Dave, always a pleasure. And we're going to pay attention to what happens with that first reading at the meeting tonight, and obviously what's going on with your lawsuit as well. And for Pete's sake, you're trying to help people. I just hate that we're fighting so hard to not help people. It seems bizarre to me. Dave, thanks so much for being on the show with us again.
Thank you so much.
Hunger remains one of the most pressing challenges facing our community. We were just talking about that with Dave.
Yeah.
But we can make a difference. Join KTAR's Outspoken with Bruce and Gatos in supporting St. Mary's Food Bank through their fundraising campaign in the month of June. Text FOOD to 620-620 to donate. $1 provides 5 meals. Text FOOD to 620-620 to donate and be outspoken against hunger.
Hey, you know what I was just thinking? If $1 provides 5 meals, if we were to take the
347,000 or whatever it was for the city manager,
you're talking almost Okay, I'm not going to do too much math, but more than 1.5 million meals.
Over 1 million meals. Yeah, no doubt about it.
That's crazy.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.